What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what the news is saying about NIO, you should be watching for as time goes on, and also what's going on with some other pieces of news for the markets. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I talk about what's going on with the markets, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moon, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to NIO. NIO is down 3.8% for the day again after we got some negative GDP numbers from China. And by negative, I don't literally mean they're negative. I just mean that they weren't as what we expected them to be. They came in, for the fourth quarter at 5.2% versus the 5.3% expectation. So that's the reason why this news was kind of a negative for the market. The GDP numbers were a bit lower than what the expectation was. I also want to note that I don't fully trust the number, the data coming from there, but just to be safe, we have to just go based off that. So that played a role in why a lot of Chinese tickers saw some downside. Then the whole market started to sell off because of what we saw from the Fed. A bunch of these Fed speakers came today. They basically were saying that the Fed may be prepared to essentially not cut rates in March. They mentioned that they don't want to cut too prematurely, and they have to be very, very careful when doing so. So we had all these Fed speakers today who were basically saying that, and that caused the market to sell off a bit. Now, on top of this, going into tomorrow, we have Bostic from the Fed giving a speech in the morning. Then we have initial jobless claims an hour before the market opens. So we'll be watching that very, very carefully. And then after that, there's not really much else coming out. We just have Bostic giving a speech, and then we have the bill auctions all coming out, and another speech by Bostic. So you have Bostic giving like three speeches, which is pretty funny for tomorrow, and we'll see what this causes in terms of the market and volatility. But that's it for data. When it comes to earnings, it's very minor. We just have TSM, Texas Capital Bank, Fast, and just a couple of others. Then we have PPG and just a few others for aftermarket close. For Friday, we have Ally Bank and just a few others. So very minor earnings for the rest of the week. As far as NIO goes, I just want to mention I'm not really seeing any developments on their Twitter page. It's just the same thing about the EL6 getting a shout out, so that's fine. NIO announced that it will deliver 2024 models starting in March. So that's once again very, very awesome news for them as they still have a backlog of orders they're still getting prepared for, not to mention the Lunar New Year is coming up. They also mentioned that they're equipped with 4 Orin chips, basically boasting for computer power of more improvements and more development. Computers are going to be very important for them as well. There's also some news coming out that in 2023, NIO delivered over 160,000 units, and they're planning another increase for 2024. For the new models coming out, they're going to start around March time, so we're actually very close, just like 6 weeks away, and they're going to be integrating more hardware configurations, which are a lot better. So not bad whatsoever. Some improvements are being made. We're going to be watching to see how things go. Yesterday, NIO sold off because the deliveries were kind of bad for the last week, or which was the second week of January. They had very low deliveries, about 1,700. That was a slight decrease compared to the 3,000 they got from the first week. So with that being said, if NIO gets low numbers like this, it's not going to be the best. We'll see what happens with registrations as time goes on. NIO is also offering up to $5,500 off current models. They basically noted that if a model is over 120 days old, they're going to be basically giving a $5,500 discount just to get rid of the old inventory before they start selling the new models. So that's what they're trying to do. There's no deadline for them until 2023 models are sold out, according to the salesperson. So this is a big discount, and they're trying to get rid of the latest inventory before they start to upgrade and sell new products. Like I said earlier, NIO fell as the Chinese GDP number came up short, basically at 5.2% versus the 5.3% expectation. And that in turn ended up affecting lots of Chinese companies. On top of that, we're going to be looking for more export prices to be potentially pushed. I also want to note that the price cut that NIO announced for particular models was a little negative for them. That also led investors to be concerned about margins. Besides that, the price ratio is dropping. NIO is very weak. Thursdays tend to be green only about 50% of the time. And look for volatility at 2 p.m. and also during the last hour of the day. So besides that, the volume was about 62 million, very close to what we previously got. And the question is, what on earth are the technicals basically suggesting at this point? So basically, when it comes to technicals, I just want to mention that NIO is trying to base at the $6 area. We're going to be watching to see how it holds at $6 and whether it can hold around that level or not. And then on top of that, if we lose $6, it's going to be sinking down to about 5.6 5.6 will be our next target if we end up losing that. But if we hold it, if we hold this very, very nicely, we're going to be looking for a very, very nice bounce. We're going to look for a nice bounce. I think that if we get a nice balance, we're going to be looking for this gap fill over here up to 6.5. We need to see NIO basically try to break above the resistance of 6.4 to push for at least 6.5. And our next target would be 6.8 above that. So my gut's telling me, thanks to this fact that it's holding 6, it might come down to 6 and then balance and push up for 6.5, or it could just push for 6.5 just temporarily, then trade sideways. I'm anticipating that it's going to try to base at $6. I think some buyers will try to defend it. So let's see it trying to fill the gap just temporarily, as we had like a bunch of red days in a row for NIO, and I think it's finally time for it to bounce just a bit. It's also very oversold on the daily, or it's starting to become oversold. So look for a little, either a back test of 6 before it bounces to 6.5, or it pushes back to 6.5 is what I'm anticipating. As far as SPY goes, now we have a very, very nice looking potential bottoming candlestick as we held above the 20 EMA. If we close below 471.5, we could have turned bearish, but we held above it. There's a good chance it might try to bounce and push back up towards 475 going into tomorrow. So we're going to be watching that very carefully if we get some kind of bounce or not. It could just be a very temporary bounce. It doesn't have to last forever. We're going to be watching this very, very carefully. Make sure you watch the 20 EMA very, very closely. That could be very, very important. And we're going to be looking to see if that gap could fill. As far as Tesla goes, we have something very similar. We have a potentially bottoming candlestick that's forming. I just want to mention that Tesla hit 212. We had some bad news because Tesla cut more prices in Europe, especially in Germany. They had the biggest price cuts, also in France and Norway. If it gets a bounce from here, we're going to be looking for a back test of 220, but we have to first break above 217. I think it could attempt to bounce since we have a bullish divergence that formed on Tesla. We're going to be watching to see if Tesla could hold this and also how it looks of this divergence. If you could break 217, look for a push to fill this gap towards 220. Tesla, of all things, has potential to do it because I think Tesla was very oversold today. As far as Apple goes, we have this gap to fill, and we're also forming a bullish wedge right here. If Apple could break above 182.5, look for a push towards 183.5 to almost 184 to test the 30 minutes 200 EMA. So there could be a bounce attempt here off this bullish divergence. We touched 180 and tried to bounce. I think it might try to push up towards these higher levels and try to reclaim 184. The QQQ came all the way down to 404, had quite a bit of a drop. We have a gap to fill up here. We have to try to break above 408. If we end up doing so, we're going to get very close to 410 for this gap fill. So I think there's a very good chance it's going to try to achieve that. We have a nice kind of like accumulation right here. We're also forming a wedge. So I think there's a good chance QQQ might try to push up tomorrow, temporarily get to 410, reject, and close a little bit in the green. I think Nvidia might try to bounce too. We have a nice looking formation right over here as it's trying to base at 560. Might try to push up. And then I think it's going to test very close to 570, reject, and still close a little bit in the green. And I think that could help the market push a bit. So that being said, I think the market might attempt to bounce tomorrow. We could see NIO try to fill this gap. I think NIO is going to attempt to push up towards 6.5, test the 50 EMA, and then we're going to be watching it from there. Could get a little bit higher than that, but I think it might shop around after that. So look for a bounce. I think it's finally time. It's been quite a while, especially looking at the daily chart. And with that being said, have a great day, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you and peace out.